Advisory Committee. Good afternoon. Welcome to our September 18th. Is it still officially called a meeting? Gathering?
Yes.
Gathering.
I'd like to know that we are, so we don't even have a start time, but it's 4:31. We are being streamed live on MVTC's YouTube page. We do have 2 committee members who are unable to attend in person due to medical reasons. We are thinking of them, wishing them very well. Although we weren't able to reach quorum, we do plan to continue the gathering since we have several important presentations. I would like to note that the meeting summary will reflect that we are not formally meeting as a program advisory committee, but since we follow the public meeting requirements, we can continue to meet in our roles as commissioners. Tonight we have Commissioner Briskman from Loudoun County, welcome, and myself, and I believe it's all the commissioners. We'd also recognize a former commissioner who's in the audience, Randy Minshew. Thank you for joining us. He is an urban at-large member of the Commonwealth Transportation Board and hails from the MVTC district. So we're very happy to have you. I was going to say did not serve with you, so I wasn't sure where we were from. Wonderful. Good to have a big Loudoun presence tonight. We do have a few items to cover this evening, mostly presentations, so we're going to get started. The first is going to be since we don't have quorum, we will bring the summary back of the April 24th Joint Program Advisory Committee and Joint Commission Working Group meeting back in early 2026. So we will not be doing item number 2. You want to come here, Kate? Have a seat. Next, we have our first presentation, which is going to be from Sophie Spiliotopoulos. Oh, I got it.
You got it.
MVTC's Data Visualization Program Manager. But before she starts, our MVTC Deputy Director of Programs and Policy, Anne McGrain, will provide some context on the purpose of this presentation.
Thank you, Chair Palchik. So Sophie's presentation is really meant to showcase the good news stories that we have in the region regarding ridership. As we look towards the fall and a potential funding solution coming out of DMV Moves and SJ28, we think it's really important to highlight that in many cases, our transit systems are doing better than ever. So as Sophie gives this presentation, I want you to think about just what facts were surprising to you or what you think maybe is the most important thing for the larger public to understand, because any comments that we receive here from you all will help us refine our message as we go into that 2026 legislative session. So with that, I will pass it on to Sophie.
Okay, thank you. Let's go 2 slides further. Yeah, we'll stay right here for a second. So I know that you both are familiar with Northern Virginia Transit and its extent, but I think it's good to just note that we have that in these analyses, I'm going to be talking about both MVTC's bus and BRE and Metro Rail, as well as OmniRide. So I always like to include our sister commission to the south, PRTC, when I'm doing these analyses. So I just wanted everyone to be on the same page about the geography of what we're talking about before we move into it. So now we can move into the next slide. And here's another kind of just touching base point in that we do have a data dashboard. We've had it up and running for about 3 years now, but it just went through a redesign. And so I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to plug that it both exists and looks a little bit different and is hopefully a little bit easier to use, has a little bit more information to go along with it. And so a lot of the information, a lot of the data that you will see today in the presentation actually came from the data that's in the dashboard. So you're able to see it there. You can filter down for most of the things, we see a lot of ridership, productivity, and service data, as well as access and proximity to transit analyses. And you can filter by agency and jurisdiction and transit mode, depending on the data. So it's just a plug. It's something I work hard on, so I wanted everyone to know that it exists. And then we can move on. Beautiful. Oh, thank you. I was just waiting for that. So I want to start off by saying that today's transit is strong. And I know that there have been headlines that buses and trains are empty. You hear that sometimes, but it's just really not the case anymore. And like Anne said, we really just want to like share and elevate these good news stories about transit, and the fact that transit is strong today. And so, like you're seeing up here, we have more than 700,000 people each week riding buses, 1.3 million riders on Virginia Metro Rail each week. That's just Metro Rail in Virginia. That's not even the full system. And then nearly 50,000, 47,000 people riding VRE each week. And that VRE number is likely even higher now. This data was pulled, it's based on the last 6 months of fiscal year 2025. And so as you move further, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, the first 6 months of 2025, yes. And so VRE had a huge bump, and it's a little bit of a spoiler alert, in ridership as, you know, return to office and stuff happened. And so that number I think that number is a little lower than we're seeing today. They're seeing more above 50,000 people riding each week. And just so we have some kind of reference, the rest of the Commonwealth is cumulatively, they have increased ridership by 11% year over year since last year for the whole region, and we have increased 15%. We as in Northern Virginia Transit. So we're really strong. That's the message here. And you're going to just keep hearing me say that. And on the next slide, you're going to hear me say it again about bus specifically. So you're seeing this quick graph about it's both Virginia Metro bus riders as well as all local bus riders. And so bus ridership is higher than 2019 levels. And you can just see it continuing to increase. We're seeing this trend of just strong year over year increase of bus ridership. So that's the statement on this page. It's just that bus is strong and bus is increasing year over year. We can move on because I really want to highlight the hard work that's been done at our local bus agencies. I'll talk about Metro in a second, but right now I just want to focus on our local agencies and how they've worked to improve their systems, which then leads to strong ridership. You can't have a good, strong ridership if you don't have good, effective service. So I just want to note a couple of things going on in the region. We've seen network redesigns. OmniRide has restructured a lot of their routes. Fairfax has done enhancements to their transit network, responding to Silverline extension specifically. Dash, of course, did their full network redesign in 2021, but I still want to highlight it because you're still seeing the effects of that. As well as service enhancements. Loudon increased local service. They have more Saturday service and they introduced Sunday service, which is amazing. That's really expanded when they're providing, which allows more riders to ride. There's been fleet modernization of our buses across the systems, as well as a lot of different innovative fare policies. So we have a lot of fare-free programs. We have Q and Dash are fully fare-free. Loudon and OmniRide, both their local services are fare-free. Their commuter services still has fares, but we're also seeing interesting reduced fare programs both in Arlington and Fairfax. So a lot is happening. A lot is happening in the region. A lot has happened last year. And we can go to the next slide and we kind of see the effects of that. So on this slide, of course, we can go into the specific increase year over year of each agency's ridership, but I just want to note some interesting things about these three agencies. Both Q, Dash, and Fairfax Connector have all exceeded 2019 ridership levels. They are going strong, and I wanted to note this because that's still, we're moving away from, you know, the depths of the pandemic, and we're moving away from comparing ourselves to where we were at in 2019, but I still think some people think that way, and so it's good to, you know, have that reference. I also will note that these are three different kinds of bus agencies. Q is very small, they're fare-free. Dash is mid-size, they're fare-free, and Fairfax Connector is much larger and serves a larger area and is not fare-free. And all three of them have had excellent ridership. Dash has had the highest, they have exceeded, how do I want to say this? They have had their highest ridership. They've hit milestones for a few years now as the highest ridership ever, and then they had even higher ridership, and then they had even higher ridership. So it's amazing. we're seeing this kind of across the region in different ways. And so it's just good to elevate that message once again. And there are a couple different reasons we're seeing this. I talked kind of generally about it, but speaking specifically about Q, they've worked really hard on rebranding as well as having their fare free. And rebranding, they included in that kind of cleaning up their image with improvements to new seats. They have solar lighting, they have really good signage. They also have more students and faculty writing. And so there's a lot of things happening within the city of Fairfax that they put a lot of work in to help that ridership. Dash, we have a lot of community engagement, as well as, like I said, that network redesign and being fare free. And then Fairfax Connector has reimagined their service. So it's not a full redesign, but it's a restructuring of service in Centerville and Chantilly and Vienna and Tyson's, to name a few. And they've also had new service on the express lanes, which helps reduce passenger travel time and things like that. And so that was a lot of good news stories for our local bus. And I want to then now talk a little bit about commuter bus and VRE, because they have also had their own good news stories. For a while now, the message has been that commuter bus hasn't matched the rest of bus and local bus, but that is changing, and that has changed. And so commuter bus is also now back, and we are of course seeing that correlate with the return to office directives, as well as service enhancements from the agencies. It's not just all about the federal mandates that we're seeing. So commuter bus ridership doubled in just the first 3 months of 2025. And I think that alone is pretty incredible. And as well as VRE, which saw 76% higher ridership over the first 6 months of 2025. And both of these, of course, you can kind of map them exactly with when commuters are starting to come back to the office. And I also just want to take a moment to note the long-term work that VRE and the investments that the Commonwealth have put into improving service and reinventing the systems that will then increase ridership on VRE. And there are two major investments that I want to note from the Commonwealth. There's the Long Bridge project, which will increase capacity, allowing for more frequent, reliable service. And then you may remember the recently completed Manassas Line rail agreement by VPRA, which is also going to help expand VRE service from a commuter rail system to a regional rail service, excuse me. So that's a lot about commuter stuff. Let's move on to even more good stories. And now we get to talk about Metro. So you've likely heard a lot about these, but I think it's kind of nice to put them all in one place. But just like the local agencies, Metro has been busy making and keeping the system safe and efficient. And I just want to highlight a few different things that happened in the last year. The first of which is, of course, the new bus network, which just debuted, I guess not just anymore, but June 29th it debuted. And that redesign focused on creating more frequent, reliable, and user-friendly bus service, all without a budget increase, which is always worth saying. And then on the rail side, they've also focused on optimizing their service with more peak trains. They implemented Tap Ride Go, where you can tap your credit card and you don't need to use a smart trip on the rail side. And it's also important to note that serious crime is down 40%. And Metro takes their rider safety very seriously. They're constantly working on this, and they are seeing seeing the benefits of putting in the work there. Rail fare evasion is also down 82%. And that, of course, is attributed a lot to the new fare gates and all the effort they've put into that.
Is the baseline in here still 2019? So when you say a serious crime is down 40%, is the comparison year 2019, or is it over 6 months of this year?
It's a great question. I need to go back and double check. Adam?
23. Okay.
That's a great question, and worth noting that that's not on there. Thank you. And of course, customers are satisfied. That's the last thing that I wanted to note. And that we're seeing strong customer satisfaction. They're exceeding targets, especially on Metro Rail.
A new metro system of the year. Yes.
Hey, and that,
Yes, that
that's
was quite a
small thing.
celebration. I was
Yes,
there for that.
I know, I should have put that on there too. Yeah, and that's amazing, and that they've never had that award before, right? Yeah. Yay. So now we can look at the numbers that kind of back up the hard work that we're seeing here on the next slide. And there are a lot of good statistics on this page, and I don't want to overwhelm you by saying all of them. And also, I've been talking a long time already. But the one that I really, really want to highlight is that the exceptional performance of weekend Metro rail ridership. We're seeing it higher than it was in 2019 on Virginia Metro rail stations. It goes across the system, but my numbers for Virginia Metro rail stations 30% higher than 2019 numbers, which just attributes, I think, a little bit to changing travel patterns and people really making use of Metro.
We know how much that is a silver line to.
It's
the airport.
That's like that would be interesting to look into. I don't know off the top of my head though.
I think a component here as well is that there is better weekend service now than there was.
Yes.
Flat fare and free parking.
And all those things. There's a lot of
All
things
those
going
things. There's
into
a lot of, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one big one. I also just wanted my other favorite statistic on this page is that Metro hit their first million rider day this spring, and they have hit 12 days. So, I'm sorry, since 2019, they've hit their first million. I almost said $1 million day. Million rider day. That would be amazing. Million rider day, and they have hit 12 since then. So all in the last, since the spring. So I think that is kind of an incredible way to think about how many people are using the system. And that's because the system is not only functioning, but, efficient and serving its riders.
But to your point, like one of the few public services we offer, where the more riders we have, right, the more income that's coming in from the use.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe one day, $1 million day.
There you go.
And I just want to kind of finish off with my big numbers on the next slide by bringing it up to the national level. So over a 3-year period, WMATA ridership has increased the most among peer transit systems. They have had a 95% increase in ridership since fiscal year 2022. 95. It's 93. That's what it says. I don't know why I wrote 95. It's 93. And you can see that's kind of blowing everyone else out the water. And when you just compare last year and we're comparing those same peer systems, the average for all these agencies was a 6% increase in ridership, and WMATA's was a 15% increase in ridership. And while thinking about why is this? There really isn't one silver bullet. There's a lot of small normal bullets, I guess, that have helped, small helpful things, because they haven't had all these advances. I just talked about a couple that have just happened the last year, but they have worked really hard to bring the system back to a state of good repair. There's been a lot of efforts to engage with the community. They've focused a lot on transparency. They're elevating the good news stories. I could go on. But like I said, in the last few years, in the last year, they focused on optimizing our rail service and fare evasion and making the safer. But there's been a lot that went into that 93% number. And I just want to highlight that because I think they do a good job of elevating their own good news stories, but we're here to also elevate them. And so I'm gonna finish off on one more slide. That's gonna kind of bring it into a little bit of a bummer, which is that ridership is doing really well in our region. And especially when we compare it to the state, when we compare Metro specifically to the rest of the nation. And these successes are because we've maintained service levels, but funding uncertainty, of course, puts all this hard work and progress at risk. And WMATA's ridership specifically is in part due to that 2 years of funding that was secured through the Commonwealth's General Fund that allowed them to sustain service. But that was, of course, only a stopgap solution. It's only 2 years of funding. And on the other side of things, the state aid overall has been declining. We've known this, we've seen it coming, and it continues to decline. And that puts the locals at risk with things like merit operating or merit funding. That helps them continue service. And so the reason I'm bringing this up and being kind of sad about it after all my good news stories, it's not really sad because we are working to fix this with SJ28 and find that long-term funding solution. And so moving into the fall, just as some context for some more context, and provided a little bit of context before I started, but for this presentation as a whole, we are going to continue, moving into the fall, we are going to continue to elevate these wins of our transit systems and the strong ridership we're seeing. And we are planning to provide more presentations, issue briefs, and other materials as we gear up for the General Assembly session in the spring. And going along with that, that legislative ask for long-term transit funding. And so with that, I think there's just a question slide next. So I'm happy to take questions. You guys have had some helpful questions along the way, which always helps me refine things. But happy to talk about the good news stories or anything.
Well, first of all, thank you so much to Sophie and the whole team who worked on this. Excellent presentation as always. I know we're probably excited to have a little time to play with the dashboard, and that's live as of now.
Yep, it's live.
Perfect. But before, I guess I turn it, I don't know if you want
I do, I have,
start with something and also.
yeah, I have a couple comments and then a question, I think 2 questions. Since we're talking about good news stories, I just wanted to share a couple things from Loudon, and that you may or may not be aware is we started a pilot to bring people into the county from other jurisdictions. One of them being Frederick, Maryland, and I think the other one was Dale City. Preliminary data from that is that it's going really, really well and getting a lot of vehicles off of Route 15, which is a big choke point for us in Loudoun County. Our ridership for our commuter buses has gone up 52% since the back to work orders, back to the office orders came down. We had to put some buses back into service that we had taken out of service. And then I have some preliminary data on the microtransit pilot from Leesburg that actually, you guys supported the funding from BRPT for that, or the grants. We have increased, hang on just a second. I sent this to you, Kate, a little while ago. I just want to make sure I talk about it. It's grown from 33 boardings per day during the first week of service to now 122 boardings per day. Passenger ride ratings are 4.6 out of 5. Ride duration is averaging 10 minutes. So it looks like that pilot is going really well. And as you may or may not recall, this is sort of like an Uber type service, but using our local fixed route buses. Actually, no, it's vans. It's not our existing buses, it's vans. We're really I was honestly kind of skeptical when we approved that program, and I'm really, really happy with the results. So just a couple things from Loudon. The one thing that I would be interested in this great story that we're telling, if it's applicable, and I know that there's consultants or some kind of formulas out there that can tell us with all this increased ridership, how many hours are commuters saving, how many hours are local employees saving, and then maybe how much CO2 are we preventing from going into the atmosphere because we're getting all these cars, like this super increased ridership, we're getting all these cars off the road. I would be interested in that if it's not too, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Not too complicated to do.
I know our energy office yesterday said 43% of our emissions are from transportation, so.
Yeah.
County.
Yeah, and I was just at the library today, and we have our four plug-in chargers. We're all full at the local library. So that was nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioner, are you?
Technically a board member.
Board
Chair.
member.
I had the honor of serving on NVTC for years. Matter of fact, I was telling Ms. Matisse that I recall 4 years, Senator Jennifer Wexler and I would leave Leesburg together, drive down together, carpooling. We would talk about the MPTC agenda while coming down, and then we would debrief it going back, talking about what we could do our respective houses. So it's good coming home to the MPTC MVTC and.
We're happy to have you.
Also, back in June, Governor Youngkin appointed me to a 4-year term as urban at large member of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. There are 2 of them. One deployed to Tidewater, where they spend time working on bridges and tunnels, and one from Northern Virginia. So, because the state code even says that the urban at large member shall be mindful of transit and mass transit opportunities. So I promise you I will be mindful. And I appreciate your invitation to come down here, because when I was working on transportation matters and transit matters, this is where I would come to get my intel. And the commission and its great staff for giving me and if I look at my crystal ball, Madam Chair, I think 2026 will be a very eventful year for funding for a whole bunch of things. The SJ 28 committee report will be coming down. New governor, biennial budget, many things are happening. So, and some of those will involve the Commonwealth Transportation. So, no place better than coming here and seeing my friends help me do my job and remain mindful as the urban at large member of the CTB.
Well, I'm pleased to meet you and to have you here. You may or may not know I represent Providence, which is the most urban area.
I remember Jim Scott and Kate Hanley and many of your predecessors in Providence.
So we get to follow in great footsteps, and those investments in transit absolutely have paid off. And, you know, as we continue to bring ridership, I know we don't talk about that here, but for me, it's also, as we talk about housing and density and being able to focus our energies on ensuring that we build the right way to ensure both the ridership and people not having to get in that car. And I grew up here, and I'm sure you've seen the decades of traffic changes.
I grew up in the Greensville district.
Oh, there you go.
And not too far from Providence. And yeah, I've seen the changes over the years. And also that we don't have the agendas published a long time in advance, but there will probably be items on the CTB agendas. We meet monthly. We have an October meeting coming up right before the governor's transportation convention in Richmond. If anything comes up on the agenda, please feel free to reach out to either me or DJ Griffin, who is the board member for the Northern Virginia District, both teaming Northern Virginia with my focus being on transit and metro. So please let us know that we can be your voice on the CTV.
Thank you. Well, pleased to have you here to our gathering, not official meeting. And before I say anything, I don't know if Kate, you wanted to add anything additional to this.
No, I mean, I just think, and Sophie knows I'm always tracking these numbers. I'm just excited because earlier drafts, we were only looking at 2 million riders, and it's now jumped to 2.1 million riders every week. And I just want to tell you the fall was 1.7. So when Sophie speaks to the growth in ridership, and again, Loudon is a perfect example. And I think a lot of the Fairfax County buses as well, like it is, if you look at what was last fall and you look at now a year later, it is a totally different picture. And part of the storytelling is, especially when we go down to Richmond, is recognizing that there is a new story. It's not the story from a year ago. It's actually really quite remarkable how many people are moving up here in Northern Virginia right now because of our transit network. So
yeah, and I just so I had one question, which I don't know if we can answer. I have a couple. Is do we have data for new riders? I always think about how we get new people. I just had a conversation with someone who said, "Oh, I've never ridden the bus. Thanks to the transit redesign, I can now take the bus straight to my office, which is fabulous." I did not have a say in that, but I think what's important is that it is focused on activity centers, right? And being more where people are and having more frequency with the same budget. So I don't know if that's something there as we try to think about how to get new riders. And I think about it of all ages because I like to start them young, but those who have spent their decades driving around and maybe would appreciate the help. So that's just one question. And then the other one, as we I know the conversations come up in DMV moves, and I know there are a lot of feelings about the coordination or not coordination of the different systems. As we're sitting here and I'm hearing Julie talk about the great improvements in Loudon, and I know our systems, the Q bus goes through my district as well, is how do we have data that can look at any changes that have been made to better coordinate the times, the lines across jurisdictions? I don't know if we have that, or if we can help bring information as to like, what are the ways that we can better coordinate our bus systems
Yes, yeah.
to be those cross-jurisdictional connections. I always think over here where we're a little bit more dense, but as Loudon grows so much, how do we look at that? Because if it's about the riders, right, and less about the system.
So there's ongoing coordination that happens, like the service planners at the connector are always connecting and talking to the metro, et cetera, et cetera. So that's actually something, is it being advertised everywhere? Not
So
necessarily.
I'm curious, do we have data to
I don't
understand, like,
know.
or is there a way to look at, I don't know, Brent, if we
Yeah.
look at sort of what are changes we've made to better coordinate and.
I mean, we analyze our routes on a daily basis to see how. That sort of narrow look at sort of the cross jurisdictional, I don't know how we.
And I don't know if that's a role for MVTC or if that's for agency.
It's an interesting
levels.
question, though.
Just, okay. Perfect. I got to write the art for the first time today. It was fabulous. 12-minute lead time, so amazing.
Not bad.
All right, well, thank you so much. Any final questions, comments? Excellent, thank you. And I assume we'll be pushing out the dashboard if we haven't already.
Yes, yep, we're working with comms. It's coming soon. But
Amazing.
it's live and it's the same
It is,
website.
okay, and let us know and we'll help push it out.
Yep,
as well.
absolutely.
I assume we will. Okay, perfect. All right, well, with that, we will now move on to one of my other favorites, Envision Route 7 BRT updates. And I just want to add, it's not in here, I don't believe, but many of us saw MVTA put out their new, their plan, and to really see, I appreciate seeing the coordination and understanding that we can't build our way out of, right, our traffic problems, and we do have to start thinking more in all of our transportation about how do we better make use of the roads that we've put out there, or road put out there. So BRT being one of those areas, which I think also helps us think about where we develop land, where there is transit available. And so this one is really looking at Envision Route 7 BRT. We have Vikram Sinha here, who is our MVTC Senior Program Manager for Envision Route 7, which has 3 sections. I know Rice County is involved with all of those sections, but that Vikram's been really helping coordinate amongst the different jurisdictions as we plan for this Route 7. I think great improvement to transportation. So, Vikram?
Thank you for that great introduction, Chair.
Still mostly awake.
So just talking about where we are right now with Route 7. Next slide.
How do we update it to the F20?
No, you
Yes.
like that?
I do.
Lots of photos being taken around the region.
Yeah.
It was a first day photo.
Was it, stops my favorite coffee shop.
So Route 7's project corridor is 14 miles, goes through 4 jurisdictions, Fairfax County, Falls Church, Arlington re-enters Fairfax County, and then it terminates the BRT portion, at least, in the city of Alexandria. And during those 14 miles, it goes through a lot of wide-ranging income and transit-dependent residents and areas. We did a kind of scan, if you will, in 2024, and we found about 500 million in existing capital projects that will help advance BRT and just improve bus service. And those projects range from transit signal priority to expanding bus bays. 7 corners could be really critical in helping getting the bus through that complicated intersection. So prior project work has determined the route as well as the mode. So we are going to do bus. We are settled on the project route. One of the challenges, just governance-wise, is different ownership of the roadway itself. VDOT owns major parts of the corridor, but also the cities of Falls Church and Alexandria own their respective roadways. But overall, this project is looking to deliver high-frequency, high-capacity service We're looking to do context-sensitive bus priority treatments, understanding that each jurisdiction has certain ideas about what will work for them, and what might work in Fairfax County may not work in Falls Church, just because it is, again, a varying roadway. And then we're also looking to do enhanced bus stops and boarding islands to improve the customer experience. So the existing route for the F20 is in red, and the F20 kind of serves 90% of the project corridor, let's say. And then those are the 3 phases. Currently, the F20 runs 12 minutes from 8 to 8 and 30 minutes in the off hours in the evening. Really strong ridership, just tying into what Sophie was talking about earlier. We're seeing 7,400 daily riders in July 2025, 74% above pre-pandemic levels. And this slide previous to today was at 67%. So that's a constant increase. We're seeing a lot of great success with the F20. It is the 10th highest ridership in the Metro bus system, and that is the highest ridership bus line in Virginia.
Across different systems, by the way. Like that's everywhere in the
every
Commonwealth of
system.
Virginia, this is the highest bus.
Yes, thank you.
Ridership.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so like GRTC, Hampton, everything, this is literally the one that's got the most people on it.
yeah. Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, really landed the point there.
Sorry.
And so some of this is that it connects multiple metro rail stations. NVTC and the jurisdictional partners are looking at advanced BRT planning in a kind of phased approach. So that's what we're here to talk about. Next slide. So currently we're in phase 4.2, which is from 7 corners in Fairfax County down through Bailey's Crossroads and kind of terminating around Mark Center, Southern Towers, and Alexandria. And so this phase has kind of 3 aspects to it. One is the overall like data analysis piece, which is that kind of blue box at the top. That's kind of doing data collection and creating a multiple regression model almost of the corridor to analyze impacts of BRT. So what we're really looking at, how will BRT impact traffic flow, making sure that we're not going to create a condition that makes traffic flow worse and creates harm to the general community. So we're working with VDOT and Fairfax County staff on that, and that's using a tool called VISM. So that tool will allow us to see the current state of the corridor as well as the future state with BRT. And that BRT that we're looking at is both center running as well as curb running. And then the next part of this work is the community outreach piece. It's been a while since we've talked to the community here. So that purple box is just kind of talking about showing the 2 timelines of outreach. And we've divided into phases. The first phase is kind of building understanding because we know it's been a while. This is a population that kind of maybe a little too busy, not aware of some of the conversations that have occurred. So that part of it is really critical to us, making sure that we build understanding and then coming back to the community later with what the results are, what we're thinking, seeing how people react to ideas. And then that third kind of set of boxes, and let's call it chartreuse, they're little subtasks. And each of these are kind of developed as to aligning decision-making for each jurisdiction. So Falls Church had a little piece of leftover question, if you will, about what is the best treatment for Falls Church? Is it a bus lane or is it a HOV or high occupancy vehicle lane? And so NVTC was like, well, let's help you come up with that decision. So we're taking the analysis that we did in the prior phase 4-1 and kind of seeing and answering questions to get Falls Church staff in a better place to come up with a recommendation for their jurisdiction. And then in Alexandria, we're doing analysis to see what is the best place for the bus to kind of terminate the BRT. Is it Southern Towers? Is it Mark Center? Is it both? So looking at some data, looking at ridership, looking at what bus lines connect, having discussions with Washington Headquarters Services, which administers the Mark Center for the Department of Defense, seeing what information we can have there, talking to different stakeholders about what makes sense, what are the plans, what's occurring, what can be better. And so we're hoping to see some sort of decision making coming to that helps Alexandria get in a better place.
Vikram, sorry, not to throw you off.
No, that's
One
all right.
question that I haven't asked before. Do we have sort of an average length of each rider? Like how long, sort of, do we have a sense of speaking across jurisdictions?
We don't have like a perfect sense of it, but we have worked with WMATA about 2 years ago on origin destination data that they had. And it's interesting because the corridor shows, one, there are riders that go the entire length of the F20 from Tyson's down to Mark Center or vice versa. But there's also, interestingly, riders that kind of are in your district, just going from the Tysons to West Falls Church and in between. There's a lot of ridership that goes towards East Falls Church from the city of Falls Church or Seven Corners Bailey's. And then there's a lot of ridership from Seven Corners Bailey's that goes to Old Town, which is where the F20 culminates. So we see that this corridor doesn't just serve one.
Right, that's what I've been curious about.
Yeah, it is an interesting story, and it's a great question. I appreciate you asking that. It is interesting that it's kind of divided up into these three parts. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to keep that in mind as you all continue the outreach phase.
Yeah, and we're in conversations with WMATA about where they're seeing ridership and what their thoughts are. They have some more tools that our consultants may not have and some insights on ridership. So they're also working with us just to see what makes sense. Next slide, please. So public outreach goals, we have three main goals. So this one is to increase awareness and understanding of the project, as well as bus rapid transit service in general. Looking to collect feedback on transit in the corridor today. What is the collecting feedback on the interest and demand for future bus rapid transit service, making sure that people ride the bus, what their thoughts are on it, what they'd like to see, what works, what doesn't work, generally the pain points. And then the second overarching piece to our community outreach is to collect feedback to inform decisions in the vicinity of Southern Towers and Mark Center. So really want to talk to riders and residents around there. How do they travel? What value do they have, and how we can better serve them? Is there ridership that exists for the Mark Center that we may not capture? A lot of motorists that would prefer to take a bus from Tyson's or further afield. Is there ridership needs at Southern Towers? So really working with our partners at City of Alexandria as well as WMATA to make sure that community, and we're hearing from them and making sure that we're making adjustments that benefit them. And then lastly, empowering stakeholders such as yourselves to become advocates and champions for the project, because truly if the elected leaders don't see value and don't see the benefit to the community and how this will improve them, we're going to have a harder slog uphill just advancing the project. So we're really looking for that leadership, making sure that you're comfortable with conversations and empowered to speak with the community about what changes and adjustments you'd like to see. Next slide, please. So in this phase, the building understanding, and this is just a picture of kind of the Mark Center in the vicinity, we're looking to convey what the project is, why it's needed, the work that's been done to date, and then what is next. It's really key that folks understand that this isn't just a research project, that this is going to lead to tangible changes and improvements in their lives. We do want to communicate with them the benefits the project will bring to the region. And also critical is that they understand that the project is aligned and consistent and coordinated with other regional transit efforts. So this isn't just a project that stands alone in itself and it is operating in conjunction with a lot of jurisdictional plans. And then looking to answer some questions via outreach. How do people use transit as a corridor today? And then what is their existing transit experience like, to make sure that we understand that we're not missing something in these conversations. So definitely asking those questions and hearing back from them. Next slide, please. So outreach events, we're going to do pop-up events and bus stop chats. And then we also doing an open house meeting. And this open house meeting is for both the Fairfax and Alexandria piece as kind of a introduction to the community. And we're going to do that at the Culmore Library on Wednesday, October 15th from 4 to 7. On the right is a picture from when we did outreach in Falls Church. But we're looking to have a conversation with the community, have them come out. But of course, we understand that they're not always going to be able to come out to an open house. They're busy. They have lives that they need to live. So really relying on the pop-up events and bus stop chats to go to the community where they are, as well as creating a feedback form that can be disseminated to via mailing lists and other outreach materials. We have updated our project webpage this past August to kind of give folks an updated view of the work. And then Sophie did a great story map as included with that update, so that helps tell people the story of the project, not just a bunch of information, but also like where we are and where we're going. And then, of course, print and digital promotional materials in multiple languages, recognizing that, English is not the first language for some of these folks. They may not be the most comfortable with it. So want to make sure that those materials are available in the languages that next slide. And then just a kind of disclaimer slide, if you will, but we just want to make sure that folks understand the study will advance jurisdictional decision-making on bus rapid transit route and bus treatments. So we're not making the decisions for the jurisdictions. We are giving them the information they need to feel empowered to make a choice. And the study is not making bus operation recommendations, and certainly is not looking to remove bus routes. So we're certainly looking to provide WMATA and other bus operators with the information they need to make an informed choice, but not looking by any means to make decisions for them. And that last bit basically says that we are playing well in the sandbox. So working with everybody, a lot of phone calls, a lot of coordination. Every 2 months we have a project technical advisory committee meeting in this room. So all the jurisdictional partners, as well as WMATA, NVTA, VDOT, DRPT, participate, ask questions. We have a conversation about what we're doing next, what they'd like to see, what is helpful. And then during those meetings, we also have one jurisdiction give updates on what's going on in their jurisdiction for projects. So that's been really helpful for everybody to understand what's going on and projects that are occurring that will help the bus service on Route 7. And then next slide. And then lastly, we had done a presentation in July to some of the commissioners on bus priority, and we had done a July commission update on bus priority, and just wanted to provide an update that we have rolled out a public-facing map. So this is active right now with a page associated with it that talks about the bus priority treatments. And this map kind of outlines where those bus priority treatments are located. A lot of folks in this room from our jurisdictional partners helped. Not going to call them out by name, but I'm going to look at one of them. So this map kind of outlines the location of bus priority lanes, transit signal priority, and other infrastructure that benefits the bus in the region. And we're looking to build on this map with other treatments. But right now, this is the first look for the public to see and get an idea of where there are beneficial treatments to help the bus service. And any questions?
All right, first of all, thank you, Vikram, and the team who worked on this, and all of our staff who come here regularly and provide input. I have so many questions on this, but let me start with trying to tame my anxiety of just wanting to move as expeditiously as we can, and as understanding that MIT's role is pretty limited, right? Helping plan and bring our jurisdictions together, but in the end, it's gonna have to be the jurisdictions that take that on. And as we continue to do sort of the outreach, I think my only fear is getting people really engaged in something where we have no clear timeline, right? So I know that I appreciate the map for bus priority. I know we've looked at different ways to be able to implement sort of hybrids. I don't know what you call them, the hybrid BRT, before we get to the dedicated lanes.
Oh, you just bus priority.
Bus priority
Yeah.
stations.
Yes.
I don't know if those are conversations we're having, like other things within there. Because I want to understand what's the earliest that we could start to incorporate some of the smaller, less costly bus prioritization tools. I don't know we have that, or, no, I'm looking at Brent, but.
Yeah, so I've not been engaged in that level of planning.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful, especially knowing that, right, I mean, the northern section, which is the first one that was designed, I know is mostly mine with Drainsville, and that there is quite a bit of ridership there and more development coming along of what are the things that, you know, we can maybe look at moving along that are less costly, or understanding what the cost would be to do some of those things. I know that our staff are also working on Richmond Highway, but kind of understanding if there are some easier wins so that we don't go too far down with the engagement piece to not have answers, right? Or to have people who are really busy say, okay, and what? That's my only concern, as much as I love this project. So I don't know if you have feedback on that, or.
No, we appreciate that. I know Kate, Andrew, and I, and even Ann have talked at length about just the phases, right? This is phase 4. There's been 3 prior phases, has been occurring for a while. So how to get something in to benefit the community faster, you know, and that's why it's important for us to reiterate, it's not just a research project, it is an actual planning and implementation side to this. I think Fairfax County staff has been really helpful and forward thinking. You know, all the staff want to see something happen, but there's a lot of plans. And so just making sure that bus lanes and multimodal treatments can all happen together. And of course, all the planning work that goes around it, it's a big lift. So that is one aspect of it. We're in conversations with WMATA about possibly doing a application to commuter choice with I-66 to get additional service. So that would be something that the community can see quicker, sooner, faster. Of course, that service would match the hours that the toll roads in I-66 are affected, but that could be a great pilot to see what does more frequent service do, and bring benefit to the community, and that could happen on a much faster timeline. And that could also be used as a kind of way to push forward the idea that this is happening, folks. Let's make sure that we're prioritizing this project.
I love that idea. I hope that has some merit, or.
We're very engaged in conversations.
All right,
Very
good,
timely,
good. Okay, good.
timely piece. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd also add that I think part of this is with VDOT as the roadway owner. I think, you know, their method here is to they need to be very comfortable and have sort of the road operating kind of issues studied extensively. And so part of this process is to bring them along so that we can then, you know, at some point in the next, hopefully year, maybe a year and a half, go to the Fairfax County board to take a recommendation on what they want to see on this section of 4.2 for BRT. And I think something Grickham and I are attuned to is, are there any opportunities along the way to identify, bus priority kind of infrastructure, things like that, that's on our radar. I think we're also anticipating briefing the Fairfax County Transportation Committee in the fall. And so I think we will have some, yes. And so I think we will work with Brent and his colleagues at FCDOT to kind of have some good conversations, take your feedback in, and make sure we've got a good message and unified.
Yeah, I think the last 6 to 9 months, maybe even longer, a year, has just been making sure all the jurisdictions know what we're doing, what we're asking them to do, and then making sure that when we go out in public and we say we want to do this, they're aware and they are not caught by surprise. And so that's been a lot of legwork on our behalf, which is great. I enjoy it. But it is coordinating the governance and Andrew and I have been going out to VDOT, and that's been great because we got to know VDOT colleagues a lot better as a result. The face-to-face time, right? That's been really valuable.
Good. Well, no, and I appreciate that. And I think it's good to bring it back to the committee, because as you know, Supervisor Jimenez does not sit on MVTC, but that southern portion on our side is his, I think, almost entirely. And then making sure that, all of our board who are not as involved here are aware, since we do have such a big role to play. With that, I will pause there and just see if there are any, other comments or questions.
The questions here, it's a great project. I don't think Route 7
Fascinating.
is gonna come all the way out to here, did it?
Just, yeah, not quite.
But at the time at which Loudoun County gets busier and busier and those
Right.
buses are falling full, some lessons to learn from the great things that are happening down here, so.
And then the only other question is, I'm sure it's on the maps somewhere, but I don't know where all of the connections are from other routes that come onto this major, part of why it's so busy is because there's no metro going north-south, right? And so it really is bus that takes that priority. And so understanding where those current or future connections are.
Is that the current other transit provider routes that are on the corridor, or
Yeah, I think other routes that are mostly crossing through the corridor. I don't know how
We
that
do
works.
have that map, somewhere. We made it, it's very busy.
it's a challenge.
Figured, yeah, it's very busy. You have a-
It
It's a
looks,
very challenging map, but
Yeah.
we'll take that back and
Okay,
try to unpack it a little bit.
talk about coordination. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Vikram, so much,
Thank
and
you.
the staff for your work and continued progress. And very much appreciate that you'll be coming to us. And so now, I know it's not an official meeting, but any other questions, business, comments from our one official member? Yes, honored guest. Advisory Committee? All right, well, I'm sure you're very sad to hear this is our last scheduled PAC meeting for 2025. And we wish our two other members all the best in healing as they recover from, I believe, surgeries. So with that, at 5:28, we're unofficially adjourned.
Unofficially adjourned.
Until next year.
Unofficial meeting.
I do